I don't know about you, but normally you pay somebody for something when it is property, and that's clearly showing that she is the property.
Once again, your charges against God's love are absolutely baseless. Let's read Deuteronomy 22 again, but this time in the King James Version, which has the correct interpretation of the Hebrew.
All right, let's see it.
If a man find a damsel which is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her, he may not put her away all his days. Now, the reason I read the King James is because in the original Hebrew, the word used there is not rape. This verse has nothing to do with rape. This verse is not talking about rape.
That's precisely what this verse is talking about, but in ancient Hebrew there was no word specifically for the concept of rape. They described it by talking about someone who seized another person without their consent to lay with them.
The original word is taufaz, which means to lay hold of. You know, the same way that when a man and a woman, a bride and a groom, say their marriage vows, they say, I take you to have and to hold.
That's absolutely not what this verbal root means. It refers to seizing or laying hold of something without consent. So in the previous chapter where it talks about the parents seizing their rebellious son to take him to the city gate to be executed, that's the verbal root that is used there. This root is used to refer to conquering cities, to stealing things, to seizing people in order to execute them. This is absolutely a reference to seizing someone who does not want you to seize them.
Another reason we can be sure that that verse is not talking about rape is because when you examine the verses prior, it actually is talking about a man raping a woman. Look at verse 25. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die. And the word used for force here in the Hebrew is chawzak, which means to prevail against or to prevail upon.
So these passages are part of a larger set of passages that discuss a number of different penalties for sexual crimes. And verses 23 and 24, which were not shown by that creator, discuss what happens if a man finds a damsel who is betrothed in the city and lies with her. And there's no reference to taking or seizing. And that is where the lying together is assumed to be consensual. And the penalty is that both of them are put to death, because that is the crime of adultery, which is a crime against the husband. So both the man and the woman are put to death. And then we have verses 25 through 27, which talk about a man finding a damsel in the city who is betrothed and seizes her to lie with her. And that is how we know that this is non-consensual, because he seizes her, which is not referenced at all at verses 23 and 24. And we have this reference to her crying out, but no one being there to save her. And so she is not penalized in that instance. The man is penalized, and it is the death penalty because it is still adultery. It is a crime against the husband. In verses 28 and 29, we have the exact same situation. A man finds a damsel in the city. This time, though, it says, and she is not betrothed. So it is not the crime of adultery. It is not a serious crime against the husband. Here, the crime is actually a property crime against the father. And because it's not adultery, it does not merit the death penalty, it only merits a fine. So this is parallel. It's what to do if a man finds a woman who is betrothed, and then they lie together either consensually or non-consensually, and then what to do if a man lies with a woman who is not betrothed, and it is non-consensual, because we have that reference to taking her, to seizing her in order to lie with her. This is absolutely about sexual assault.
I've brought up a couple times, but Moses telling his men that he can take all of the virgin women for themselves. You know, they're stolen goods. And along with the sheep, the cattle, the donkeys, there are the women. So they are all...
This is how I know you've never read the Bible a day in your life. You just cherry pick verses. In Numbers 31, the Israelites went to war with the Midianites. Some of these men ended up taking the women as captives. They were never instructed to do so. In fact, when you read the verses prior, it says, Moses was furious with all the generals and captains who had returned from the battle. Why have you let all the women live? He demanded. These are the very ones who followed Balaam's advice and caused the people of Israel to rebel against the Lord. So Moses instructing the Israelites to spare the young virgins is actually an act of mercy, because these women would have otherwise been killed in battle. So by instructing these men to take these women as wives, Moses is actually preventing more bloodshedding. And the reason the rest of the women were killed is because these women had enticed Israel to worship false gods through sexual immorality, whereas the virgins did not commit such a sin, so they were innocent of this sin, and therefore they were allowed to live. Their lives were spared.
So this logic does not hold up to the actual narrative here, because the young boys who were taken were also entirely innocent of the crime of seducing the men of Israel, and they were innocent of any other crimes as well, and they were all commanded to be slaughtered. The reason the virgin women were kept alive is because they were turned over to the Israelite soldiers as sex slaves.